mode.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's event. Oh, I'm going to share my camera for a second. Hopefully, everybody is connected and can hear me okay. My name is Miho, and I'm going to moderate the webinar today and look after everybody. Joining me on the call is Sean O'Shea, who is a Customer Success Partner here at BrightWork. Can you hear me okay, Sean?
Yeah, I sure can, Miho, and likewise.
Excellent. Perfect. So Sean is, as I said, a Customer Success Partner here at BrightWork, and he works really closely with our customers for a number of years. Some of you might even be familiar with them if you're customers, but he's going to walk through our webinar today, which is about starting the right projects at the right time, which I hope will be very interesting to you guys. So we have loads to get through today, and just before we dive in, I have one or two housekeeping items. We are assuming and we are hoping that you have lots of questions throughout the demonstration. If you have a question, please just add it to the questions panel in GoToWebinar. So for me, it's just on the right-hand side of my screen. You might need to expand it out with a little arrow. Feel free to test it out and say hello wherever you are in the world. Once Sean has completed going through his demonstration, we'll get to as many questions as we can. And don't worry, we will give you the opportunity to ask questions after the webinar too if you think of something later. Secondly, this webinar is being recorded, so don't worry too much about taking any notes. You will receive an email tomorrow with a link to the recording and the deck and the slides. Some people have already used the webinar, or sorry, the questions panel in GoToWebinar. Caroline from Sweden, thank you very much for testing it out. That's great. So folks, what we're going to talk about today is starting the right project at the right time. And I guess this is important because I guess all projects start with, you know, an idea, but that doesn't always guarantee their success. And I guess starting the wrong project at the wrong time would be the best way to waste your valuable time and resources. So I guess project managers need to know what projects are in progress and when is the best time to, you know, give the go-ahead for projects. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at today. Just on the next slide, just in case some of you aren't familiar with BrightWork already, we've been making project and portfolio management easy with our solutions for nearly 27 years now, primarily on Microsoft SharePoint and then through Microsoft 365 in recent years with our product BrightWork 365. And BrightWork 365 is a Power App which works within the Microsoft 365 Power Platform stack. So we make full use of Microsoft 365 and the Power Platform, including integration with various Office products. And within the Power Platform, BrightWork 365 is a Power App and leverages Power BI for advanced reporting. So we would use a start evolve methodology. And I think we have just a little illustration on the next page there, where you'll be working with your customer success partner, like Sean, where together you'll start quickly to deliver immediate visibility. And then with your success partner over time, you'll evolve to the right amount of project management that your organization needs to deliver success, which is different for everybody. So that could be customizing your processes or even the tool. So just before we get into the content, guys, I'm just going to run a quick poll just to get an idea for who we have on the call today. There, we've launched it. So just very easy. Are we using Microsoft 365 for everyday productivity? And I'm going to let that run for a couple of seconds, but overwhelmingly people are voting yes, so you're in the right place. That's great. Gonna let that run for even, we've got a few customers here too. You are very welcome. Fantastic news. Okay, guys, thanks you very much for voting there. I'm just gonna let that run in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Excellent. So I'm actually just gonna pop my camera off at this stage, and I'm actually gonna hand over to Sean right now. Sean is gonna take us through the agenda, and then he's going to do a little demonstration through the lens of BrightWork 365. And I will be on hand at the end to look after everybody in terms of questions at the end. So Sean, are you okay to take it over from here?
Yeah, I sure am, Mihal. I'll just check with you before I say hello to everybody. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
You can, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, thank you, Mihal. And guys, you're all very welcome to today's webinar. Start the right projects at the right time. Essentially, project request management with Microsoft 365 to optimize your project pipeline. As Michael mentioned at the start, or Mihal, I should say, mentioned at the start, I'm a customer success partner. If there's some customers here, you may already know me, or you're probably working with one of my colleagues. We're part of the customer success team with BrightWork, and our role is to help our customers with project management, process support, planning, training, and certainly the successful and timely implementation of your BrightWork 365 solution. So today's webinar, shortly, I'll just come to the agenda, but I suppose the scope of this is to demonstrate how you can leverage the project request management capability and also the roll-up reporting to implement project portfolio governance in BrightWork 365, and I'll explain all that as we go through. Just a few more slides, guys, before we get to the demo, just to give you an overview of our agenda. Here's the agenda for today's session. First of all, we'll have a brief overview of why you would need request management, what we mean by project portfolio governance, and then I'll present the various templates and processes that BrightWork 365 has to offer and has to support request management. And I'll do that using a practical demo on how you can achieve your project portfolio governance, and that's by using the request management in BrightWork 365. And as Mihal already said, we'll have a Q&A section after our demonstration also. So just some brief intro slides, I suppose, just to anyone that's not familiar with the BrightWork mission. Our mission is to provide project and portfolio management success with Microsoft SharePoint. So that's another one of our offerings. That's BrightWork on SharePoint, and also then with Microsoft 365, and to make everything easier for our customers using either of those solutions. Successful request management, I suppose we talk about success, so what does that mean? And that involves the ability to, approve with scalable project request management. Using BrightWork 365 gives you simple processes on deciding which project requests get approved and automatically creates the new project site. Also to develop a transparent approvals process, be it manual or automatic, to ensure alignment with business objectives. When I say be it manual or automatic, I'll explain that later with the aid of our practical demo. Project and portfolio governance. So essentially, I'll go slightly verbatim here, but it's the selection, prioritization, and control of organization projects and programs in line with its strategic objectives and its capacity to deliver. So I suppose really the goal here is to balance change initiatives, requests, IDs for projects and so on with your business as usual projects, which would be coming through normally, and then also while optimizing return on investment and so forth. I suppose essentially, just because someone has an ID for a project, it doesn't always mean it should happen, regardless of where or who that ID has come from, be it a request or an intake and so on. Obviously, there is situations where there's a mandatory intake, we've signed an agreement with a client and then we have to deliver that project. Okay, that's a given. But obviously, in different industries, project requests and project IDs can come from anywhere. You do need to have a process or processes in place for collecting and approving all those potential projects and then weighing them up against those stated strategic goals of the organization, your resource availability and other resources as well. So that's what project portfolio governance is all about, just ensuring projects have a strategic fit with the organization. It's also about having the process in place to ensure that these projects are delivering value. And secondly, project portfolio governance provides a mechanism to track project process. So now we're just slightly moving away from the scope of today's agenda just to talk about projects for a moment, but strong project portfolio governance will give you visibility to know how your projects are doing and to know how your projects are tracking to schedule, and obviously other KPIs, which is another large part of the BrightWork 365 solution, but not something we're going to be going into any detail today. So just again, two ways to establish project portfolio governance. I suppose to achieve this balance, as I mentioned in the previous slide, in an objective way, you need request management processes, and having these processes to manage new requests helps you manage the whole pipeline. So from new request through the various approval stages through to the successful creation of a new project, and obviously that pending that it has successfully gone through all the various approval stages. BrightWork 365 is designed to manage these processes, and which provides the tools and structure you need to manage that pipeline of new projects. So, you know, some people call it pipeline, some people call it demand, and so on. So you can essentially see what's coming through and what you need to attend to and what you need to approve first and foremost. And the second aspect of the portfolio governance is having the reporting structure, and that will give you the visibility across all the projects then that are subsequently underway. So BrightWork 365 supports a hierarchical project structure based on portfolios and programs, and I might give you a glimpse at that at the start of the demo as well today, because I think it's important to start to understand that, because obviously your requests come through and they will be assigned to a portfolio and a program within that portfolio. So I'll hopefully touch on that very briefly at the start of our demo. And then a project can be managed in BrightWork then as a hub for all project related tasks and reports, and you can report across all those projects in the portfolio dashboard. So just before we go to the demo, so I just want to give you a sense of when I'm talking about request management processes and approval processes. Here's just some various examples how a project request may run through the approval processes flow from start to finish. A project request can be a zero stage. So if we're looking at the top one, so why might you have a zero stage if you just want to record the intake of this project, but it doesn't, this request for a project, but it doesn't need to go through any approvals? You can do that, but obviously then you can configure for, let's say, various project types, what level of governance you have. So for an example here, as we go from a 0 to a 1-stage process, what that means, it just gets approved and then you create a project. We have a 2-stage process here where it first gets accepted. So you imagine somebody sends it to their line manager, and once their line manager is happy, they accept it and then they send it for approval. And then if you require more governance, you can have 3 stages or indeed more. So an example of a 3-stage could be, again, an acceptance by a line manager, then it goes for review, maybe it's the change board, and then the final approval is with the PMO, or it could be the other way around. But of course you can have more than this, and at any stage a request can be accepted, approved, or it can be rejected, or of course it can be sent back to the previous step for more information. So you imagine here on the first step here on the 2-stage process where it's accepted by a line manager, they may say, you know what, I need a little bit more information about the project objectives before I'm content to forward this forward for further approval. So you have that kind of three level response to the request at each of the various stages. So this ensures that, you know, that your stakeholders then can track the progress of a project request right through from it being drafted to accepting it, reviewing it, and then obviously approval. And all requests and their status then are tracked in the request area in BrightWork 365, which I'll show you in a moment. And obviously once a request is approved, the relevant manager then can use the original request to launch a new project. And you can also carry over when you come here to the create project, which is the ultimate outcome of your request approval for someone submitting a request. All the information that's captured at this point in time in the request forms can then be carried across into the project and can form part of the project charter. So that information, that strategic alignment information that was utilized in the governance process is then brought forward into the project management lifecycle as well. That said, it can be updated as over the lifetime of the project as well, of course. But once anything is out for approval, obviously you know your forms are locked down because at that point in time, nobody wants to change it until it gets approved. Okay, guys, so we're just going to move into a demonstration. So I'm just going to minimize this slide deck for a moment, and hopefully everybody is seeing my BrightWork 365 screen. Mihal, I might just confirm you're seeing it.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. So guys, I'm just going to take you through this. I'll just a few things before I kick into the demo. I also want to show you we have a very comprehensive knowledge base, which is completely up to date with all our releases and so on. Some of our existing customers will be aware of this, and if not, you should be aware of it. And you can see all the various tabs for all the relevant modules and areas within the BrightWork 365 solution. So if you want to find out more about requests, you very simply click into the request tab there, and all the other information is there available for you. So I just wanted to point that out here today. So we'll just go back to the application. One thing I just mentioned on before we get into the request, guys, is the whole idea of the hierarchy, which I mentioned there when I was going through my slides earlier. I'll just show you the makeup of our demo site here. You can see, well, first of all, you'll see the landing. This is all the requests, and this is a quick dashboard to show me the various links, so I can quickly find my requests. I can find open requests. I can find the approved requests, or indeed I can go in and find all the requests in the solution. And if we did the maths, you know, these should all add up to this. Similarly, we can do that for projects. We won't be going there today. I'll probably show you one project that got created from a request and just show you the link and the relationship that's created between a request and a project. But portfolios is important to understand, because every request will be attached to a portfolio and a program, and ultimately when a project is created, it'll also reside on that portfolio and program as well. So I'll just quickly go in. On this environment, we only have one portfolio, so it's called Contoso. It could easily be your project management office, and that then breaks down into all the programs. And then within each of these programs, which in this instance is a very classic look and feel, you have your marketing, customer success, HR, finance, so on and so forth. But obviously those programs can be designed any way you wish. And then once you get into any of those programs, you'll see all the various projects that then reside within that program of projects. So I just thought it was important to show you that first, guys. So what we'll do now is we'll go straight into the request area, and then afterwards, what I'll show you some of the views and the reporting features around the requests and so on. So I'm just going to, what we'll do is we'll actually go in. I'll just quickly open up all requests, for example, for now, and I'm just going to just show you how to create a new request. And we're just going to call this PRM webinar. And I'll just call this demo. And I'm just going to call it 3 because I have 2 other ones in there as well. So that's me giving the request a title. So this is what I want to call my request. And then I have to select the appropriate template. So you could actually just have one single template for all your project requests, but you may want different templates depending on the level of governance. So maybe a small business change might need very level, maybe a 1 level of approval, whereas a big global implementation may go through a 3, 4, even a 5-stage approval if you so wish. So you have the flexibility to do that. I'll pick this particular one just as an example. I do believe it may be a 2-stage process. Yeah. So this is actually created, and now this presents my business process flow, my approval stages for this request. So obviously it sits at draft until I've completed all the information that it requires, and then once I'm happy, I can submit this request for approval, and it'll go to accepted and approved. So I just wanted to show you that very quickly. So that's one, just to show you how easy it is to create a request. I'm going to jump to one, like every good chef. I've one that I created earlier. So this is PRM webinar request number 2. So this is one I created earlier, and I've already gone ahead and I've completed all the relevant information with regards to the project description and purpose. You can see here as I hover over the field, it'll give me an assistant text telling me exactly what it is we're looking for here, and that's the same for all the various columns. The other important information here, as I mentioned, this has been assigned to a portfolio and a program. Obviously, I could decide, you know, this should sit somewhere else and pick another program, but I'll just leave it here with marketing for now, and I can save that. So once I'm happy, I'm good to submit that. Some other things I just want to show you with regards to the other tabs, and this is something very relevant to the latest version of BrightWork 365 version 1.6. You now have an approvals tab. So first and foremost, you'll have an approvals coordinator. So this is somebody who gets FYI'd every time a request is submitted for approval. And depending on the level of information that's available, they'll get prompted. So for example, if I submitted this now and I didn't have an approver assigned, then it'll prompt the coordinator to come back in here and will you please assign approver, and then send it forward for approval. So I can change anybody that's got an approval coordinator's role can assign themselves here. This can be set up at a template level, so the approval coordinator can always be assigned every time a new request is created, as indeed all these other approvers as well. They can automatically be set up in the template, so when these requests are created, the approvers for the various stages are assigned already, as well as the coordinator. But in the interest, let's say if somebody was on vacation and you discovered, okay, well, there's no point sending to them, the approvals coordinator can come in and assign the person that's filling in for them while they're away on holiday. Another thing the coordinator can do is that once this makes its way through all the various approval stages, right now we're saying automatically create a project. So once the final approval is done here, this will automatically create a new project. You may switch that off because you may say, you know, I don't want a project, I want it to work its way through all the various approval stages, but I don't want it to automatically create a project. I want to leave it in my demand pipeline. I want to leave it sit there until I'm sure I have a project manager and maybe a project team and other resources to start this project. And until then, I'm not going to create a project site. So you can have that either switched on or switched off. As you can have a single approver or multiple approvers. In the instance of multiple approvers, which is down here on the final stage, or not the final stage, but one of the stages, it will only move it to the next stage. So it'll only go up beyond reviewed when both these persons have actually approved it. The other things we can do is we can add in some additional approval text. So for example, you know, out of the box, there's an email with a body of information in it that you know, advises and guides the approver of exactly what they need to do. But you might like to put in some additional information here to say, you know, please ensure that all information is complete and accurate. So that's bringing that to the attention of the approver. You may also say for the person that's going to move it through the review, you know, that they ensure that all the artifacts, all the required artifacts are attached and fully completed. It'll only go to the first stage manually, so this will sit and draft until I am as the submitter. I'm happy to send it through. The other stages can be set to automatic or manual. What does that mean? That means that once it gets accepted, it won't go anywhere. The workflow won't automatically kick in. The approvals coordinator then has to come in and manually say, now I'm ready to move this to the next level of approval. Or obviously it could be set to automatic all the way through. And maybe on the last stage, you might say, I'll just leave it sit at reviewed, and then we leave all our reviewed projects sit there until we want it to go for final approval. And then once that final approval is done, we'll go ahead and make do the auto creation of the project. So this one, I'll just show you how to actually submit this. So it's just, I've all the information completed. I can certainly attach documentation here as well. So if I had a project initiation document or a business requirement spec or so on and so forth as my artifacts, I could also upload them here as well to attach them to the request, and the reviewer then can pick them up. So then I just slide my toggle to yes, and then this will actually make its way to the first level of approval and who is going to be myself. So I'll get an email in a moment, guys, to accept this request, and then we can see it will automatically then go to Christine and Scott to be reviewed. So just while we're waiting for that to come through, I just want to show you one that I have already worked all the way through to completion. So this has got the same naming convention, except it's number 1. All the same information. You'll see here I've got all the ticks here. It's gone through from draft to accepted and to approved. This one, you'll remember this is a 3-stage. We don't call draft a stage because every request is bookended by draft, and obviously you're going to create a project on the other side if it's successful. So these are your stages. Your approval stages is your 3 stages. This one here has 2 stages. It first gets accepted and then it gets approved. So this one has already been completed. I can very easily go in and, if I have approvals coordinator permissions, I can come in here and see who are the assigned approvers here. I can also go to the history tab and I can see here, okay, it was obviously I played all hats here and all roles here because I worked this one through myself. In a real case scenario, this would be various different people, obviously. So I can see a request got submitted, then it got approved. This is my comment. I said, yes, this should proceed. And then before I did the final approval, I say, yeah, look, great ID. Let's do this. And then finally a project got created from it. Just to show you the link between a successful approval and a project, if I come into the project details, obviously before this project was created, I assigned a project manager, a sponsor. The portfolio and the program remained, and I gave it a project type. You can see now this project request has made it all the way to approval. So now I don't change any of those, or nor am I allowed to change them because this is completed. If there was a scenario where you submitted an approval and you say, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that, I want to take it back, there's actually an app in Teams that allows you to do that. There's an app called Approvals, and as the submitter, you can go in there and you can cancel your approvals notification and then resubmit it again. Or say, for example, you discovered you had the wrong approver there, you can do that also. The other key element here I just wanted to show you is that this request has become a project, so I can very quickly go to the project. That's the end result of this request, and I can find here the project, and you'll see all the information I mentioned earlier got carried across, and then I add all the other information to this project as I see fit. And obviously I work my way through all the various work tabs, the Gantt and the actions, the issues, and then obviously I have a stages here, or a process flow for the project itself, where it goes from initiation to close out. The one thing I wanted to show you here, despite showing when it was created and so on, this is telling me, if I'm ever in this project as a project manager and I'm wondering wherever did this ID ever come from, I can very quickly just click back into the source request and I can come back here and I can see all the information. And I can go in and look at the history, as I mentioned, and see who approved this and so on. Just to show you what some of the emails might look like, this is the one that I just submitted now. So I can see here, PRM, I was the nominated approvals coordinator. So I'll just close that out there, guys. So it's telling me this request has been submitted, requested by Sean O Shea, and it's at the approval stage of going from draft to accepted, and there's an approver assigned called Sean O Shea as well. As I say, for the demo, guys, I'm wearing all the hats, but in a real case scenario, this wouldn't be happening in real time, nor would I be the submitter and the approver and playing all the various roles neither. So so from the approver perspective, let me just trust this content, guys. Show block content. This is the email the approver gets. So they get all this information with regards to the request that's been submitted, who it's requested by, and so on. Tells me what my role is. It gives me all the information about the request. Obviously, I get a link here. I click on it. I go directly into my BrightWork 365 application, and I can review documentation and so on. It shows me the description and purpose. And here's the additional detail I assigned. I said, please ensure all information is complete and accurate. My response can be to approve it. I can do an outright rejection, or I could send it back to draft. So I could go back to the submitter and say, look, guys, please just give me a little bit more information here. I need you to give this a little bit more consideration, and you know, I feel we haven't enough information to move this forward. I'll assume positive intent, and you know, I'll say, look, happy for this to proceed, and then I'll submit, and then that's going to go off to that's going to make its way to Christine, and you'll see now those functions have already gone from the body of the email. So I've done my action, and I can't, you know, I can't do it anymore. And you'll see I'm already getting a ping now as the coordinator to say that this has been approved. So I'll just jump back into the solution for a moment, guys. So that's the whole concept of the request, and how it gets moved through the approvals process. You may hear the pinging in the background because it was set to automatic. I'm getting notifications that it's moving through the approvals process. And in a moment, actually it was number 2. So if we go back into that, we'll probably see, where is project request number 2, and I do a refresh here, and we'll probably see it. Yeah, we'll see now. You'll see the bullseye here. It's now moved to the next stage. So I can see, I can also come in here and see my history. So I can see the history building up with regards to this request that has been sent for approval also. Just to quickly show you on Teams, you can also approve in Teams. Obviously, you can access, sorry, just forgive me while there's other pings coming in here because I had it set to automatic. I'm getting notifications from the same request. You can access BrightWork 365 in its entirety. So I'm here, I'm actually in a project using the Teams interface. So I don't have to go into, if there's a Teams and a Teams channel for a project or a program, I can go directly to that. But I can also look at my approvals here. So you know, you can decide to have this switched on and off. You may decide just to use the Outlook notifications, but here this is giving me a full update on the progress of the approvals that's been sent through, and asking me to approve it as well. And obviously I can save this too as a PDF. So that's the whole idea of that collaboration with all the other Microsoft applications, and obviously Microsoft Teams is a key part of that. Okay guys, I'm just going to go back here, and I just want to move away from that in a moment, and I'm just conscious of time, and I just want to show you some of the dashboards. So I've shown you this here, and that can quickly bring me into the areas. Obviously I could quickly find that request in here under, because I know it's one of my requests. There's also a link here on the main navigation bar that will bring you into your requests. So instantly I can look at all the open requests. I can see here is the PRM webinar March 2023 number 2. I could, for example, do a filter. For example, I just want to filter by all the ones that relate to marketing, and that will quickly just filter up and show me everything that's in the request pipeline with regards to marketing, as well as its exact status, its project type, who's requesting it, when it was submitted, and so on. Here I have automatic request numbering assigned as well. This can be automatic or manual. Obviously, if it's automatic, it's sequential. Other people like to use a manual numbering system because they're bringing those requests in from another sheet, maybe on another system or somewhere like that. So I can from here, obviously I can find my request very easily. I can go back out and I can look at just the open requests, what ones have actually been approved. There's the one I just showed you already, so I can see that that's in the approved status. And I can also look for rejected requests and so on. There's also dashboards here, so I can look. By default, it goes to the project dashboard, but I can go in here and look at my request dashboard. So here's a breakdown of all my requests based on their current status. So I have this many in the portfolio or in draft, this are in approval, this are in project created. Obviously, if I click into any of these guys, it'll show me all the records that sit behind that data. I can do it by requester, by request broken down by project manager assigned, and so on and so forth, by type, by portfolio, and by program. So again here, this is another way to get to the information that I showed you a moment ago, and I can expand this and view all the records that are sitting behind this particular chart. So guys, I think that's pretty much a lot of what I wanted to show you in the demonstration. I'm trying to think quickly, did I forget anything? And I don't think I did. I think that's everything covered. So Michal, I'm actually going to bounce back to yourself and hand it back to you for some Q&A.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. Really interesting. I think we'll skip that poll for now. We'll just jump straight into the questions because we're a little bit short on time. So folks, as I said before, please do add your questions into the panel in GoToWebinar. We've got one or two in there already. Lewis has asked a very important question. Are we going to receive a link to download the slides presented in this webinar? Yes, of course, Lewis. We will send that out tomorrow. It's actually going to be our colleague Adam who sends out that email, and we'll also send you a recording. Oh, there's Adam there, so we can keep an eye out for that email in the morning tomorrow. So he'll also send the recording and the slides. So folks, as I said, please do add your questions into GoToWebinar. We have a first question from Robin. How is the request approval managed when it's done by a board or committee?
Okay. So I suppose it's all down to your own internal governance. So there's two ways to do that. Obviously, you can, as I mentioned in the demonstration, you can have multiple approvers, but depending on your board and committee, that might not make sense while you're waiting for a number of people. So what I often find is they have an administrator or somebody that approves it on behalf of committee. And that's typically the way a lot of organizations choose to do it, rather than adding multiple approvers to a particular stage. But what they do then is, and we've often done this through design customizations, is have another field in that request form for that person to record, well, who attended that committee meeting, and that made that particular decision. Let's assume it was an approval, so that again, when I click my project back into my request, I can look at the history, but I can also go to my request form and see who was sitting on that committee that day that decided to move this project forward.
Excellent. We actually don't have too many questions coming in, which means that you were very thorough, Sean, obviously.
Yeah, we hope so.
Or we bamboozle people, but I think it's the former. So I'm going to give you a couple of more seconds, folks. If you do want to type in a question, we will stay on for another minute or so. Sam thanked us for being mindful of our time. No problem at all, Sam. It's probably the first time that we're coming in on time, which is a kind of pleasant surprise. So folks, if that is it, that's absolutely fine. If you do think of something after the fact, Adam is probably your best place to start with. You also have my email because you would have received that from the invitations. I can direct your questions to Sean or Adam or even one of our other experts here within BrightWork. Hopefully you liked what you saw and you found it interesting. Hopefully it creates some conversations in your office, and maybe you want to share these slides in this webinar with your colleagues too. Caroline has thanked you, Sean, for your demonstration.
Thank you.
So folks, we will leave it there for today, and we hope you have a lovely rest of your day wherever you are. Thank you, Sean, again for a fantastic demonstration, and hopefully we'll be chatting to you folks very, very soon.
Thank you, Michal. Thanks, everybody.
All right, Sean.
Cheers.